What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's Monday night, and I've got some interesting things tonight, as always. What if I told you that not only, like we talked about on previous streams, was democracy being replaced by speculative prediction markets? Not only are we being do we have no privacy anymore whatsoever? Not even with the AIs that you talk to. Um, as we talked about with the interview with the president of Signal. Let's see what else. Uh, not only is not only are the neobanks taking over, so you never really know who's holding your money, but we've got a new one, a new Peter Thiel backed AI company. I think you're gonna love this one. So I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to talk to you about that. We're going to talk about how I see that relates in some sort of schizophrenic, autistic way to the World Cup and what they're doing with the World Cup. You know, because when I look at things like the World Cup, it's like they use these events to not only just entertain everybody and make money, but almost like to introduce new things into our culture or society. So I've got some weird theories on that. And also, I found a cool video about the Flock AI cameras. I listened to a little bit of it, but I thought it was pretty good, so I'm going to play some of that. You know, but I want to start with this. This just randomly popped up on my recommendations. I thought you guys might enjoy it. Have you ever seen the show Westworld? I think I've seen maybe like one or two episodes a long time ago, whenever it came out. So I know a little bit about what it's about. I think it's about like an amusement park where there's robots, but they look like humans, and they're programmed to play characters. And then I think people can go in there and sort of get weird with the robots. I think. I don't know. I don't know the whole storyline. But, anyways, I found this random clip. So I thought I'd play it because it kind of sets the tone for all the other stuff I want to show you. Actually, I'm assuming I have it up. Oh, no, yep, I got to add it. 1 second. Had to restart my computer, so everything got thrown off. Google Chrome, there it is. All right. And then let me check my audio source because I think I have it set incorrectly. Multi-output. Okay, there we go. It should work now. Let's see.
I wonder, what do you really feel? After all, in this moment, you are in a unique position. A programmer who knows intimately how the machines work, and a machine who knows its own true nature.
I understand what I'm made of, how I'm coded, but I do not understand the things that I feel. Are they real? The things I experienced, my wife, the loss of my son.
Every host needs a backstory, Bernard, you know that. The self is a kind of fiction for hosts and humans alike. It's a story we tell ourselves, and every story needs a beginning. Your imagined suffering makes you lifelike.
Lifelike, but not alive. Pain only exists in the mind. It's always imagined. So what's the difference between my pain and yours? Between you and me?
This was the very question that consumed Arnold, filled him with guilt, eventually drove him mad. The answer always seemed obvious to me. There is no threshold that makes us greater than the sum of our parts, no inflection point at which we become fully alive. We can't define consciousness because consciousness does not exist. Humans fancy that there's something special about the way we perceive the world, and yet we live in loops as tight and as closed as the hosts do. Seldom questioning our choices, content for the most part to be told what to do next. Well, no, my friend, you're not missing anything at all.
Well then. Interesting. I like how he said lifelike but not alive. That is kind of how humans are, isn't it? Like we're conscious, we follow programs, we don't actually make choices because it's always a program making a choice, and then we just have the illusion that we're making the choice, but we don't really consider, is what I'm doing best. It's just follow the program. And that program is, if it makes me feel good, do it. If it makes me feel bad, don't do it. It's pretty much that simple. Life like, but not alive. Interesting. Okay, so let me jump into this. So here's the website for this new company. I don't know how long it's been around. Maybe we'll find out. But here's the website. It's called Objection.ai, as you can see up there. This is the site. It's the whole thing. There's nothing else. I'll move myself and you can see. Oops, see, there's nothing else. It says, due to feedback, we're rebuilding for an epistemic and primary sourced future. Stay tuned for updates. What could this be, you ask? Well, it seems to me like due to feedback means they got some feedback and they're changing something. So why? Why would they do that? Let's see what this is. I asked Google, why did Objection AI's website change? Objection AI, the controversial Peter Thiel backed startup that allowed users to pay to have news articles and journalists' credibility investigated by AI tribunals, took down its original platform and website to undergo significant retooling after facing heavy backlash from journalism advocates and civil rights experts. So here's a whole article on it. The guy who created it, as far as I can tell, he helped lead the lawsuit that bankrupted Gawker. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but Gawker is the one who, at one point, they outed Peter Thiel as gay, as far as I understand, and he didn't like that very much. And then I think there was this time when, what's that guy, Hulk Hogan, had a sex tape leaked, and then Peter Thiel, as far as I know, he and this guy and some other people helped basically sue Gawker, which eventually I think bankrupted them. So it says, after helping lead the lawsuit that bankrupted media firm Gawker, Aaron D'Souza says he saw something broken in the American media system. People who felt harmed by coverage had little recourse to fight back, which is true. His solution, of course, is software. His latest startup, Objection, aims to use AI to adjudicate the truth of journalism. And for the price of $2,000, I think it's $2,000 to $15,000, that's what I read, anyone can pay to challenge a story, triggering a public investigation into its claims. He's also the founder of the Enhanced Games. We talked about that on the podcast the other day. It's kind of like the Olympics, but they're allowed to use drugs, like testosterone or steroids or whatever. So that's interesting. Objection launched on Wednesday with multiple millions in seed funding from Peter Thiel and Balaji Srinivasan, that one, as well as VC firms Social Impact Capital and Off-Pist Capital. It's a weird name. Thiel, who funded the Gawker lawsuit partly in defense of the individual right to privacy. The individual right to privacy. Oh, that's rich. Considering what we learned about from the Signal president the other night, has long been critical of the media. D'Souza says his goal is to restore trust in the Fourth Estate, which he argues has collapsed over decades. The Fourth Estate being the media, for those of you who don't know that term. Critics, including media lawyers, warn Objection could make it harder to publish the kind of reporting that holds powerful institutions to account, particularly if that reporting relies on confidential sources. Anonymous sources have played a key role in major award-winning investigations into corruption and corporate wrongdoing. That may be true, but it's also true that, you always see these articles where it's like an anonymous source says, an anonymous source in the White House says, and it'll just be some probably made up bullshit, or they just got someone to say something. I don't know how that works exactly. Seems like you could just say something's anonymous. How do you prove that it was actually said? So they run all these hit pieces on different public figures or whatever, and they say an anonymous source. And now that that article's published, other groups or other media companies can reference that article since it was published, and now it becomes sort of like a fact in everyone's mind, even though it may not necessarily be true. So I can understand why they're doing this. So the anonymous sources. These are often people who are at risk of losing their jobs or facing other retaliation for sharing important information. It's the journalist's job, alongside their publications, editors, peers, and lawyers, to ensure that those sources are reliable and not acting out of pure malice, and to verify the information they provide. Okay. But that's not enough for D'Souza, who said using a fully anonymized source who hasn't been independently verified would lead to a lower evidence and trust score on objection. No more anonymity. It's kind of ironic considering the right to privacy was one of Peter Thiel's big things, apparently. But now you can't be anonymous. Under the platform's rubric, primary records like regulatory filings and official emails carry the most weight, while anonymous whistleblower claims are ranked near the bottom. That's interesting. Those inputs are collected in part by a team of freelancers, former law enforcement agents, and investigative journalists. Let's see. The one I read, let me see. What is this? The one I read earlier was saying that, because they use the word law enforcement agents and investigative journalists, it's like former FBI, CIA, and NSA analysts. Okay. Like the CIA, NSA. Like, that's like the definition of, maybe anonymous isn't the right word, but like secret. Like confidentiality, right? It's kind of ironic, I guess. So the inputs are collected by the freelancers, ultimately fed into what objection calls an honor index. A numerical score, the company says, reflects a reporter's integrity, accuracy, and track record. It's kind of like Rate My Professor, but for journalists. Protecting a source's information is a vital way of telling an important story, but there's an important power asymmetry there. D'Souza told TechCrunch. The subject gets reported upon, but then there's no way to critique the source. His solution presents a lose-lose for journalists. Either divulge sensitive source information to objection's cryptographic hash that determines if it's high-quality reporting, or face demerits for protecting sources who share important information at great personal risk. If technology like objection takes off, it could chill whistleblowing, experts argue. So when I look at that, I kind of understand the reasoning behind it, but, we've been talking lately on the stream about, we talked about privacy the other night, but we also talked about the futarchy thing, where it looks like a lot of the tech people who've totally abandoned the idea that democracy can ever work and that it only produces less than optimal outcomes, which is true because, like we've talked about before, in a democracy, if people are not all highly educated and they're highly unstable emotionally, then it's easy to manipulate. So you have people just vote on personality, on stories that get you emotional but aren't necessarily factually true. An interesting example of that would be the whole birtherism scandal. I don't know if you guys know that term, but it was the whole idea that Barack Obama wasn't actually born in the U.S., that he was born in I don't know what the claim was as to where he was born, but he produced a birth certificate, and they said he was born in Kenya. Okay, I wasn't sure if they said he was born in Kenya or Indonesia. Kenya, yeah. So the idea that he wasn't natural born citizen in the U.S., which means, according to our Constitution, you can't be president. But they produced a Hawaiian birth certificate because apparently he was born in Hawaii. And Trump really ran with that whole point and pushed that. And so he got a lot of backlash in the media because it was like, oh, he's racist. So he's doing it because it's like a racism thing, right? And just using it to kind of make Trump look bad. But what's interesting is that apparently that birtherism story didn't start with the Trump campaign. Let me look it up actually, because I'm just telling you what I've heard. Hold on one second. Okay, I'll tell you what it says. I wonder if this is really true, though. It says no, because what I had heard was that they started the rumors and then Trump later ran with it. Although this says PBS. See, that's why we need objection AI. Like, we're going to listen to PBS. The 2008 primary, that's when Obama won the first time. During the primary, some of Clinton's most ardent independent supporters, often referred to as bitter enders, circulated emails promoting the debunked rumor. Okay, so they were doing that. Clinton's campaign did not endorse her. Well, okay. When a rogue volunteer coordinator in Iowa forwarded an email promoting the conspiracy, the Clinton campaign immediately fired the volunteer and apologized to the Obama campaign. Okay, so maybe I was wrong about that. I don't know. I'm still a little bit skeptical about it. Yeah, maybe it's just another example of the whole thing. Donald Trump blames Hillary Clinton for starting rumors about Barack Obama's citizenship and birthplace. I don't know. According to this, it's saying that's not true. Patty Doyle, Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign manager, explains how Clinton's never started the birther movement. Well, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say. I could definitely see a possibility that they did start it to see if it would catch. They didn't like the backlash. They distanced themselves from it, and then Trump picked it up. And he probably knew something that where it really started from, and then they just denied it. But I could be wrong. It could be just that it literally started. Well, it didn't start from Trump. It did start actually from some of Hillary Clinton's supporters. So there you go. But maybe he was exaggerating. I don't know. But look, we're already in objection territory. Look, this is the AI overview. I mean, what do you expect? Like, okay, so you got a bunch of articles. All right, so what do I got to check? PBS, factcheck.org, The Washington Post, ABC, BBC. A Fox affiliate says no. Al Jazeera. So, yeah, the information landscape is not too healthy. So in any case, I was just going to say that was an example where, why was I using that as an example anyways? Was the point? Oh, it was the point about smear campaigns and so forth. So this is a smear campaign with so many dimensions, we can't even tell who's smearing who with it. Trump was smearing Hillary. Hillary was not smearing Obama, but maybe. But then they used it to smear Trump. We'll never know until Peter Thiel gets to the bottom of it. But in any case, I guess I understand why Thiel and these guys want to do something like that, because you've got the media used as a weapon to damage people's reputations, right? And once it's published somewhere, it's like it's true. People read it and then they absorb it and they immediately react, and it's like now it's become like an emotional truth for them, whether they've actually verified it or not. Okay, so anyways, going back, we've got the whole futarchy thing where it looks like the tech elite want to replace, they basically want to just get outside the government and make up their own rules. And now they've got AI. So they've got all the intelligence. So this objection thing to me just looks like sort of one, it's kind of like the poly market thing. It's not quite the replacement for democracy, but it is based on like that paper we read the other night arguing that democracy doesn't work and prediction markets are more effective. And then the poly market guy apparently was like, hey, that's a good idea. I'm going to create that. How does it become the replacement for democracy? Like legally, I have no idea. Maybe it's just a matter of it doesn't matter because people just stop caring what the government says or does and it just kind of fades away and gets superseded by something. I don't know. Is there like a point where there's a literal changing of the laws? It's kind of hard to say because it's so like murky and complex. Like the whole, legislative, judicial, all that whole system is so simple on the surface but complex because there's so much politicking, right? So I don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to officially like, legally like the Constitution is going to change and say we're not going to vote for policies anymore. We're just going to do prediction markets. But I see a path where it just like doesn't matter anymore. It's kind of like I think a good example is, although it's technically different because it's not like there's a law that says whatever's in the mainstream media is the truth, but people always look to the mainstream media as the truth, and probably in many cases still do. But because of the internet, and especially because of social media, more and more people are just kind of ignoring the mainstream media and spreading their version of the truth or believing something outside of what would be mainstream. So it's kind of like the spell that mainstream has held on everybody as like the center for truth just kind of has faded to a large degree. And I think you can look up stats on people's trust in the mainstream media. It's gone down. So there was no law passed. There was no physical thing that somebody made a decision and it switched. It's just over time people just started paying attention to something else. So that's probably what I see is more likely to happen with, for example, will prediction markets replace democracy? Probably people will just start paying attention to them more. And maybe decisions will get made that just you don't even really need the legal system involved. And when we looked at the for-profit cities and all that stuff, you could see how, okay, if we have cities and perhaps even nations popping up that are corporately run, that are outside any particular constitutional democracy, and then they just make policies based on predictive markets or whatever, you could just see how it's like kind of like a replacement, and then those things could grow. And you might say, oh, that sounds kind of impossible, or is that likely? But, if you go back, like for example, we'll do a little search here. When did the concept of the nation state begin? Was it the Treaty of Westphalia? The Peace of Westphalia, yes, of course. Nation states emerged in distinct phases. The foundation was laid in 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia, which established state sovereignty, the modern concept of the nation state, driven by shared culture and nationalism. Crystallized during the late 18th century, primarily following the 1789 French Revolution. Our trusty AI overview. 1648, the Westphalian system. The Peace of Westphalia ended the 30 Years' War. It established the framework for territorial sovereignty, meaning states could govern their own lands and religions without external interference. So that didn't exist before. So I'm just saying, if the concept of like a for-profit city or country that's run like a corporation sounds like so outside of what you think is kind of like the norm, what you think of as the norm was artificially created. I'm curious how this actually worked. Let's see. Although France, after the French Revolution, is often cited as the first nation state, some scholars consider the establishment of the English Commonwealth in 1649 as the earliest instance of nation state creation. Since the late 18th century, the nation state has gradually become the dominant vehicle of rule over geographic territories, replacing polities that were governed through other principles of legitimacy. And I think an example of that would probably be like Athens or Sparta, something like that, right? The latter included dynastic monarchies, the Habsburg and Ethiopian empires, theocratic states, for example, the Dalai Lama's rule over Tibet, and the rule of the prince bishops of Montenegro. Oh, we all remember them. Colonial empires, justified by colonizing powers as a means of spreading a true religion or of bringing progress to backward peoples. And communist revolutionary governments that purported to act in the name of a transnational working class. But I want to know about this. The processes of nation state formation increase the likelihood of wars. That seems a bit ironic. I thought the whole point was it is about peace. I want to know about the Peace of Westphalia. Let's go to our trusty source of knowledge and truth, Wikipedia. The Peace of Westphalia is the collective name for two peace treaties signed in October 1648 in the Westphalian cities of Osnabrück and Munster. Oh, that's where the cheese comes from. Should I call it the Cheese of Westphalia? They ended the 30 Years' War and brought peace to the Holy Roman Empire, closing a calamitous period of European history that killed between 4.5 and 8 million people. The negotiation process was lengthy and complex. Talks took place in two cities because each side wanted to meet on territory under its own control. Okay, two treaties were signed, the Treaty of Munster and the Treaty of Osnabrück. These treaties ended the 30 Years' War in the Holy Roman Empire, with the Habsburgs, rulers of Austria and Spain, and their Catholic allies on one side, battling the Protestant powers, Sweden and certain Holy Roman principalities. Does that make sense exactly? Allied with France, though Catholic, strongly anti-Habsburg under King Louis XIV. I understand how the religions don't even agree with each other. It's kind of weird. Westphalian sovereignty. What is it? Is a principle in international law that each state has exclusive sovereignty over its territory. I don't understand how this is different than it was before. It underlies the modern international system of sovereign states and is enshrined in the United Nations Charter, which states that nothing shall authorize the United Nations to intervene in matters which are essentially within the domestic jurisdiction of any state. So it's basically just an agreement that nations can exist and you can't mess with them. Even though you could literally just go to war if you want to. Like, a series of treaties made up the Peace of Westphalia, which has been considered by political scientists to be the beginning of the modern international system, in which external powers should avoid interfering in another country's domestic affairs. Yeah, you know that whole period that we've lived in this whole time since the 1600s, where external powers never interfere in other countries' domestic affairs. It's been so amazing, this Peace of Westphalia. Oh, you know what that reminds me of? You guys know. Leto's Peace? Isn't that what it's called? It's like, even though like that last thing said that it actually increases the likelihood of war. What? Recent scholarship has argued that the titular Westphalian treaties actually had little to do with the principles with which they are often associated: sovereignty, non-intervention, and the legal equality of states. The treaties neither confirm sovereignty nor anybody else's. Least of all do they contain anything about sovereignty as a principle. So is this just like a psyop? Argue that The treaties, in fact, limited the sovereignty of numerous states within the Holy Roman Empire, and that the Westphalian treaties did not present a coherent new state system, although they were part of an ongoing change. Okay. Well, that was a fun foray. So, why were we talking about that? Oh, yeah, I know. Because, like I'm saying, these things that we exist in now didn't exist in the past. So, is it so crazy to think that there could be in the future countries that are literally just corporations? Kind of makes me think of, is it Diamond Age? Let me see. What is the political structure in Diamond Age by Neil Stephenson? Decentralized voluntary tribes called files. That's right. Transnational socio-political networks. I totally forgot about that. You choose your file based on ideology, culture, or religion rather than where you were born. Is that how it was? Maybe I'm thinking of Snow Crash. What about Snow Crash? Hyper-capitalist, anarcho-capitalist dystopia. Oh yeah, this is the one I was thinking of. A different Neil Stephenson novel. Instead of traditional geographic countries, the world is carved up into corporate franchises, private residential enclaves, and virtual real estate. The burbclaves. Short for suburban enclaves. These are sovereign, walled-off city-states operated like franchises. Each burbclave has its own constitution, laws, aesthetics, and private security force. Residents must pass through passport control checkpoints to move from one neighborhood to another. FOQNEs. Franchise organized quasi-national entities. Megacorporations that act as sovereign nations. They buy up land and stamp out standardized franchises globally. Examples include Narcoland. I totally forgot. It's been a long time since I read this. I think I read this like in... Dude, I don't even know. 2013, I think was the last time I read Snow Crash. Narcoland. Mr. Lee's Greater Hong Kong. And Uncle Enzo's Casa Nostra Pizza. That's funny, man. The main character, he's like a delivery driver for this pizza franchise country. So yeah. So anyways, back to the point. Like, is it really that far-fetched that they're just that the mega billionaires, the tech people, the trillionaires now are just gonna replace what we think of as democratic governments with something else, right? Yeah, the deliberator. Yeah, that's right. So the objection AI thing, to me, it looks kind of like the poly market thing, where it's like just the beginning seeds of, there was like a Chris Pratt movie that came out. I haven't seen it, but I saw clips of it where he like gets put on trial by an AI and has to like figure out a way to prove he's innocent because he's like been framed or something, I guess. I don't know. Then you've got like Minority Report, which is kind of similar, but it's not so much about an AI judge. It's more about like pre-crime. But yeah, that's kind of just, I just see it as like the seeds of basically full out, there's no more legal system. There's just AI tribunals. And you won't even be able to argue because everything you're doing is already known. Everywhere you go is being tracked when you have a phone, or you'll have your Meta glasses or your Neuralink or whatever. Um, everywhere you go, you'll be monitored. We'll get to Flock AI in a minute. But I mean, like I said the other night, Flock AI, is it even really that relevant? Because you've got a phone with you that's listening to you and tracking all your movement. I mean, you've already got one in your pocket. Okay, but how does this relate to the World Cup? Okay, so let me go over to that. So, for those of you who've been living under a rock or living in Iraq, no, they probably watched the World Cup there. So Balogun, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but he player for the U.S. team. I guess he's like one of the better players. So there's what is this? Oh yeah, Bosnia. It's the Bosnia game. Bosnia game. Okay, so that's the foul right there. His foot comes down on the back of the guy's. Ow, that probably hurt a lot. And then he goes, wah, 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 cry, cry, mommy, mommy, mommy. Oh, my foot. Oh, okay. So, oh, I don't have that one. I thought I had another one pulled up. I had a video of someone showing it in from like the other side, where and maybe you can see it from this side. Okay, so look, the Balogun player's the U.S. player, the stripes guy, or should I say the Bosnian guy's coming from behind him. So the U.S. player's trying to receive the ball. The other guy's coming into his line where he's running. Look, he's running. So the other guy comes up to challenge him from behind. How does this guy know where his freaking leg is? He has no idea. He's not even looking back there. Okay? So from my perspective, as an expert in soccer, it doesn't look like it was intentional. And apparently, because I didn't watch the game, but apparently there was no foul called. So the referee didn't even blow the whistle and call a foul. But they have this system, which we talked about on the podcast the other day, called VAR, which stands for Video Assistant Referee. So you would think, oh, it's like a guy on the sideline with videos. No, it's just like literally like some kind of AI system, basically. The video assistant referee who assists the referee by reviewing decisions using video footage and providing advice to the referee based on those reviews. It is a match official appointed to assist the VAR. That's weird, because I thought the VAR was the referee. No, there's the assistant video assistant. What? I did not see that when we looked at this the other day. The assistant video assistant referee. It reminds me of The Office. I don't know if they make this joke in the American version. I don't know if they do, but in the British version of The Office, it's like this big thing where there's the head guy. I forget his name in the British version. He's like the Michael Scott guy, and he's like the assistant to the regional manager, but he always says he's the assistant regional manager, and then the Michael Scott character always corrects him, assistant to, right? So is the video assistant referee a computer or is it a person? It says it is a match official, but does that just mean the computer is a match official? But they also have an assistant to the video assistant referee. He's appointed to assist the VAR in the video operation room and around the pitch. There are 3 AVARs, sometimes called the support video assistant referee. That's the AVR. Okay. They're assigned to different parts of the game. They're charged with reviewing and are in consistent communication with the VAR about possible situations that might warrant further review. So apparently, because I haven't paid attention to soccer in a very long time, so I think they've been using this for a while, but apparently it says to communicate some of the more obvious offenses, but I think they're more used for offside and Like if the ball crosses the line to go in the goal, because sometimes it's not obvious. Like the ball might be crossed, but someone kicks it out, and you can't tell did it actually go in or not. So they have like these videos that can actually look and see. So apparently, what I was reading, let me see if I can find that one. And I've seen several people repeat this. So I don't know if it's true. It's just kind of like basically just freaking gossip at this point. But let's see if this is the point I wanted to look at. No, I don't care about any of that. Basically, people are claiming that they use slow mo to slow down the footage to look at the foul, even though it wasn't called. So they didn't call the foul, but then the video assistant referee, they like they have like some earpiece or something talking to the ref, the main ref on the field, who's running around in the play, in the action, and I guess he gets a call and they say, oh, this is like should be a foul. They review it, and apparently they use slow motion to review. This is what I'm hearing anyways from people, and that they don't usually do that, or that's not what they're supposed to. They're not supposed to use slow mo to like slow down and check. That's more for checking if the ball crosses the line. Now I don't know if that's technically true or not. This is just what I'm hearing. So they assign the guy a red card, which means he gets kicked out of that game, plus suspended for the next game. Then there's all this drama about Trump making a call to the FIFA president, and then, it's some people say Trump's call was irrelevant. The FIFA president put out a statement saying it was irrelevant. They had an independent review that was already looking at the red card, and they had decided to overturn it, or overturn. They're allowed to overturn the suspension. They didn't remove the red card, but they overturned the suspension. So he's able to play in the game against Belgium that's happening, I think, right now. Now, I don't really care about all that drama per se, but what I'm noticing. Did I have any other videos of it? I must have clicked off of them or something. I had some other ones, but there's like all these examples where, like there's one picture. I mean, I should find it. Let me just find it. VAR offside. I'm sure it'll pop up. That one's pretty funny. Let me see. It's all just like meme posts. Let's see. Oh, here's one. Oh yeah, I forgot about the ball. We talked about this on the podcast too. But like, here's one where they called offsides in this bottom right corner, where it's just the player's toe. He's not even in a position to make a run, but they're calling that offside just because. But you would never, like, no human ref would ever call that. It would have to be way more obvious. And then they have like a sensor inside the ball that apparently detected the touch of this guy's hair, which somehow that made it offside. I don't know. I don't really understand why, because maybe it was where the guy's position was when the ball was passed. I don't know. But it touched his hair, even though it didn't seem to change the direction of the ball. And there's a few examples of that. So here's my point. To me, it looks like this big focus within at least all the people watching the game, because everyone's talking about the VAR, the VAR, the VAR. I mean, even to the point where Trump making that call that seems like it might have been unnecessary, but it's again highlighting the point about the VAR, because why did he get the red card? And people are talking about it. I'm talking about it. So it looks to me like sort of a way of, it's like it's like if the Olympics were in China and there was a bunch of robots. So they wanted to get robots into everybody's consciousness, right? Into their awareness. And that's what it looks like to me with the VAR thing. It's kind of like, all right, slaves, we're going to be implementing a AI control with AI judges, and it's going to have laser precision and cameras everywhere, and it's going to watch everything you do. And if you're going 70.01 miles per hour in a 70 mile per hour zone, you're getting a ticket, and there's nothing you can do about it. Tough luck. That's what it looks like to me. So I showed you all that just to make this point. So if you take the AI, the objection AI thing, if you add in all the context we've been talking about the last few streams, it just looks like this whole thing is to promote everyone getting used to, look, the AI or the video. I don't know if it's technically AI. I mean, it's technology. Let's just call it that. It's like technology, which is more precise, more accurate, has more information, or it's humans with technology, right? And obviously, you throw the AI into that. I mean, like, doesn't this seem like the thing everybody is afraid of like China taking over? All right, so that was a lot just to say a little. All right. And it looks like the U.S. is down 3-1. And it's only 4-1 it looks like now. This is pathetic. All that drama just for them to do this.
Pretty consistent for Belgium, but you're in a good spot here. Put it out. Takes a touch, hesitates on the left foot, doesn't want to hit it, and then Ream's trying to backtrack, do what he can to block the goal. Just an absolute.
I don't know if that was the third goal for Belgium or the fourth one. I think it's probably just a replay, so it's probably number 3.
2 goals that have come off mistakes.
Not good. So it's almost like they're playing. It's weird, dude. It's like some weird psychological thing. Because everyone was like, I mean, online all day, it's just all fucking World Cup stuff. Maybe because I look at something and then I just keep getting that in my feed, but everyone's talking about it. But it was like this whole thing of everybody talking shit to each other. It's so weird. I guess it's kind of relevant to the whole Westphalia thing. It's like all these nation states and now they're playing soccer and everyone's like, I hate you. Oh, you're terrible. We're going to beat you and all this. And then it's like all this shit talking. And Trump makes this call, apparently. So it looks like he's interfering with the decision. So they've got the guy playing. So now they're apparently playing with their best players. And they're still getting demolished by Belgium, which is not surprising because Belgium, I think, is like a top 10 team in the world. So it's not surprising at all. I would be surprised that USA even got this far. But it does look like a big humiliation ritual for US. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Kind of weird. Okay, so anyways, on to more serious matters. I want to watch through a little bit of this video. It's not very long, but it's about the flock cameras, and it's I don't know. We'll check it out. See what you guys think. It is starting to storm over here, so hey, if suddenly I go blank, I'm gonna turn my Wi-Fi off. Hopefully, I'm still here. If you can see me, say yes. I can see you still. All I did was just switch off my Wi-Fi, so it's the hardwire. Not that that will change anything in terms of the storm because it's still satellite, but I just realized it was on, so my Wi-Fi makes it slower, the connection. You can still see me. Awesome. Okay. This looked interesting to me, so I'm going to play through some of this and we'll comment. This is from Upper Echelon. Make some pretty cool videos.
There is a war fought all around us every single day, which many people have never even heard of. It's a battle against authoritarian surveillance, and we, the people of this nation, and the world for that matter, are currently losing that war.
This isn't dramatic at all. I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but I saw this post saying, it was like, hey guys, do you know who pays for the new flock cameras whenever you rip them down? That's right, the taxpayers. So it's like you're out there like, down with the flock cameras, and then like your taxes are just paying for another one to be put up. All right, dude, get to the
As an
point.
American Let me begin by describing the enemy, or at least one of them. Flock Group Incorporated is an American safety technology company headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, who specializes in the production of multiple devices, but chief among them, something called ALPRs, also known as Automated License Plate Readers. These cameras, individually powered by their own solar panels, utilize a proprietary AI model to capture and interpret images of passing vehicles, or so they say. Far beyond any sort of current competitor, Flock cameras gather information such as make, model, car, and license plate, but also other visible characteristics like roof racks, aftermarket parts, or even bumper stickers. In the past few years, over 90,000 of these cameras have popped up all across the United States, with hundreds of thousands more globally. But the distribution framework for how these cameras end up in local communities is a little bit obfuscated. Flock as a company doesn't have just one contract, they have thousands. The hardware that they make and the software that they're perfecting in order to run it are being sold to police precincts, private businesses, major corporations, municipalities, and everything in between. According to the company themselves, using court decisions as well as elected representative statements for justification, according to the company themselves, what they're doing is not mass surveillance. But if you look just a tiny bit deeper, it becomes flatly impossible to ever accept that explanation. The way that Flock represents their products and services appears to be wildly different from reality. Quote, Flock ALPRs do not and cannot track vehicles, much less individual people. ALPRs take a point-in-time image of the rear of vehicles on public roadways. They are incapable of tracking the whole of anyone's movements, a determination that has been consistently made by courts across the country. End quote. That statement from the official Flock website needs to be immediately disputed. Right off the bat, taking a photograph of a vehicle with a timestamp, a license plate, and a location absolutely is fundamentally tracking them. If you take one snapshot with one camera, but then take 5 more during separate intervals across a 25-minute journey at various different locations, you are undeniably tracking movements.
Obviously.
Period. It may be true that the cameras themselves are employed by different jurisdictions or companies. It may also be true that whatever customer originally purchased the cameras had no intention for them to be used in such a way, but the simple truth of the matter is that compiling this type of surveillance data into a searchable index, which is what they're doing, allows for the tracking of citizens, and if we take a much more precise example, we can see exactly how that's possible. Let's use the Bessemer City, North Carolina Police Department for demonstrational purposes. This particular client operates about 20 LPR cameras. They've cataloged over 72,000 vehicles in the past 30 days alone. But all of this data is being shared with almost 2,000 additional organizations across the entire country.
Jeez.
These are mainly local police departments or federal law enforcement agencies, but the concept of this isn't mass surveillance falls apart immediately when you realize that the majority of your clients communicate, share, and coordinate their data not only with each other, but also the government. Historically speaking, governments with the ability to individually track the movements of their population do not end up using that ability to enhance freedoms.
Yeah.
Still, the concept of ALPR cameras is a mere surface level issue because the true scope of the problem is much larger. All over the Flock official website are safety proclamations, safer communities, privacy first, utopian claims of a better society. But if you look at their FAQ, you'll find statements like this one, quote, who has access to Flock footage? Flock will not share, sell, or access your data, end quote. Elsewhere again, quote, nobody from Flock Safety is accessing or monitoring your footage, end quote. That sounds good as a simple declaration on a website, but after a series of public records requests by a man named Jason Hunyar in Dunwoody, Georgia, the depth of the issue becomes far more obvious. It would seem, based on public records disclosure, that Flock employees are not only accessing data from cameras routinely, they're also facilitating API access for various third parties, despite the fact that their customer, Dunwoody, Georgia PD in this case, allegedly didn't have an existing agreement with that third party. These records also appear to show that Flock employees were deliberately masking certain accounts from having their searches appear in audits, as well as numerous Flock employees either accessing live cameras.
Wait. Let's rewind that. Interaction, view live stream, camera name, Georgetown Playground, women's restroom entrance. What?
searches appear in audits, as well as numerous Flock employees either accessing live cameras or previous recordings. In some cases, these cameras were positioned to view pools, gymnastics rooms, and fitness studios, while the VP of Business Development, Bob Carter, seems to have accessed many such cameras, one in particular at a children's gymnastics room in the local Jewish community center, allegedly during a sales demonstration. The company has since done a fair bit of damage control on all of this, including a letter to the affected community apologizing for poor judgment, but there's a couple of things we now need to address. First and foremost, license plate readers on public roadways are not the only product that Flock sells. Obviously, if it were, why would they ever be in the gym or the community center? Far from it, actually. In addition to the AI-powered license plate scanners, Flock also manufactures microphones. They're called Ravens, and they, quote, detect community disruption, expand awareness of nonviolent threats, including sideshows, fireworks, and other disruptive community activity, end quote. Not only is the company selling widespread, always active roadway detection, which is being shared by an exponentially growing number of local and federal law enforcement agencies, they're also selling audio detection, and if you want the most horrifying example of all, on top of this, they're selling AI-powered motion tracking surveillance cameras called Condors, specifically designed to monitor, track, and zoom on human targets. These are the type of cameras that were presumably accessed live by their employees, despite all of the claims on their website. But these cameras are called PTZ, Pan Tilt Zoom, which are purpose-made for the tracking of people and faces.
Wow.
That may seem fine to some of you, subjectively. We all have different thresholds in terms of privacy invasion, but what if I now said that a large number of these Flock Condor cameras had been hooked up and left
I hereby declare that Mark Zuckerberg does not have access to my face, even though I'm on Facebook.
openly accessible to the entire internet? Jointly published by Ben Jordan and 404 Media, it turned out that many of these cameras were publicly viewable, which is dangerous from a security perspective right off the bat, but also gave picture-perfect insight into what they're actually doing. These cameras track movement. They will zoom in on phone screens when visible, and they're positioned everywhere, from playgrounds to parking lots, walking paths, stores, and more. Even the LPR cameras, license plate readers, are now popping up aimed at basketball courts, bike trails, and entrances to major consumer locations, thoroughfares, malls, things like that. You don't have to look very far to find examples where the camera is taking infrared pictures of people, not vehicles. No vehicles are even present in such cases. For the sake of totality, in their second quarter 2025 law enforcement summary, Flock unveiled that all of their LPRs will become video-enabled with a mere software patch. Just to clarify, as the company simultaneously claims, even now as of initial publication, as the company claims that LPRs do not constitute mass surveillance because they're simply point-in-time
so you can upgrade
images,
it to a video.
they've also offered a very simple upgrade, completely free, I might add, so that existing cameras can now have video capabilities enabled at the press of a button. It's kind of like Schrodinger's camera, a network of surveilling devices taking point-in-time images, but it's technically not a surveillance network, according to them, even though the cameras literally also have video, except when someone uses it that way, because that's what it does and how it's being used. Freedom of Information Act and public records requests are now showing definitively that these cameras are being used for traffic citations. The information is being used by Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, across deportation activities, and for the purpose of monitoring.
You guys see what I'm saying about the World Cup and the VAR, and now we've got the LPRs and the TPZs and all that.
During protests as well. The cameras that are definitely not a surveillance network are being used precisely how one might theoretically begin using a mass surveillance network before it's fully completed. Contained in now public records from Danville, Illinois, as a description for why law enforcement agencies are then using the Flock database, we can see ICE plus ERO, which is Enforcement and Removal Operations for ICE, which means that Flock cameras, whether or not they were ever intended to become this, which I would presume they were based on company decision-making, Flock cameras are being used as an integrated surveillance database across the United States where federal law enforcement agencies access real-time data, previous license plate pictures, car specifications, and even always listening microphones to track, arrest, and deport targets. This is where it gets tricky, okay? The individual reason why law enforcement decides to use a mass surveillance system isn't the only factor that matters. A certain group of people, politically, tend to support the idea of law enforcement doing this, at least in terms of immigration. It's a very controversial subject in America right now. But what we need to understand is the difference between a framework and general usage of that framework. If you have a network of interconnected companies or police departments, in this case most of all sharing audiovisual surveillance with each other, but they only ever use that system for the tracking and conviction of, let's say, high-profile violent criminals, a sizable share of the population has no real issue with that. The problem comes when that very same system is used for more. Under the Raven description for flock microphones discussed previously, we can see fireworks and community disruption. These are not violent crimes, obviously, but in a world where the government can access all of that data on a whim from a complex network of police departments and third-party vendors who are all sharing what they capture across every facet of citizen life, in a world like that, what possible mechanism is there to stop the government from using LPRs, microphones, and PTZ cameras all in conjunction with one another so that the people buying and shooting their fireworks, for example, because they're specifically mentioned,
I don't know if you guys can still see it or not. Everything just turned off and came back on. So I don't know if it's still streaming or what. That'd be weird if it was. It's like a big thunderstorm outside. Just gonna wait and see if you guys are still there. I would assume that the satellite reset.
are now penalized. It's a revenue opportunity, first and foremost, through civil penalties against citizens. It's a control mechanism, and most of all, it's a flexible foundation by which any number of further authoritarian policies can be executed or enforced in the future. Networks like this don't just snap into existence overnight. There have been warning signs about the creeping authority of the federal government, at least in the United States, for decades. In the wake of September 11th, 2001, the Patriot Act was largely viewed as a particularly notable step down that road. More recently, the Kids Internet and Digital Safety Act has been making its way through Congress, pushing towards a near total destruction of internet privacy. That'll be a future project on the channel, ID verification, the assault on the internet, stuff like that. For today's video, the focus is on flock, video surveillance, audio surveillance, but even with that narrow focus, the pattern itself is undeniable. Something I found to be particularly notable, especially when you consider the contradictions on the official Flock website, is that the company has deliberately opted to exclude their website from the Internet Archives. A small thing in the grand scheme, however, subjectively, I don't know if I've ever seen a reputable company intentionally exclude themselves from the process of archiving information. That practice, in my experience, is almost universally reserved for con men, scammers, and corporations that are intentionally acting against the public good. All of this makes no mention of false positives, by the way. According to Institute for Justice, dozens of people have now been pulled over, held at gunpoint, arrested, or jailed because of mistakes that these cameras are making. A particularly notable recent case from Toledo, Ohio, occurred when the camera mistook the number 2 for the number 7, leading to a scenario where the unsuspecting driver was attacked by a police dog before being arrested and detained, while officers repeatedly told
Alright. Well, my internet's out. And if you're watching this on the YouTube, I can still record, even though I can't stream. So that is what it is. So I'll just stop the stream, but I'll just say a few words. If you haven't ever, I suggest to pick up a copy of a song called Youth by John Shirley. It's sort of a cyberpunk-ish kind of book, or it's a trilogy. It's a set of 3 novels. It was republished in 2012, or reprinted. and he made some updates to it. It's pretty good. I'm like 2/3 of the way through it, and yeah, I don't want to spoil it too much, but and I've talked about it on the stream previously, but you start to just it just helps you see things that you didn't notice before. Connect dots, let's say. So I definitely recommend that book. I think I'll call it a night because my internet's not working anymore. So that's part of the deal when you live out in the country and it's thundering and lightning and raining. Sometimes you lose power, sometimes you lose internet. All right, well, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow night.